Hey, Richest you money maniacs. Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to discuss why fiat currency technically does not qualify as actual money. Let's get right to it. So today I want to talk to you about fiat currency. First off, what is fiat currency? That means it's not real. And so when a currency is called a fiat currency, that means that there's not anything backing it up, like gold or silver or tobacco or cows or horses or land or anything. There's nothing behind it except a government saying you have to use this currency or you will be in violation of federal law. That's what makes a currency fake, is that there's nothing of real value, intrinsic value tied to it except the threat of incarceration and the power of the government that issues it. So for a second now, let's back up, because you may not understand that the US dollar, for instance, doesn't have anything behind it. In fact, the euro is also the same way. It has nothing behind it. So that's the difference. There was a time where we actually used real silver coins and real gold coins to exchange as money. And then people got tired of carrying the heavy gold around and the heavy silver around to be able to make big deals. So they started using banknotes. And basically those gold coins or silver coins would be put into a bank, and the bank would issue a certificate of deposit that proved that you had that gold in that bank, and people would accept that as legal tender, that you have proof that you're paying them, you're giving them that certificate of deposit, which means they can go to that bank and get the gold and silver out whenever they want to. And then of course after a while, why bother going to the bank? I'm just going to put it in another bank anyway. Let's just both use the same bank, we'll leave it in there, and you give me this piece of paper and I'll be happy. So that's what started paper money. Paper money became that certificate of deposit. And then after a while, it started to change shape. It became more convenient. Instead of carrying around big pieces of paper in your bag that said money on it, they actually started to make them smaller so that it was easy to fit in your wallet and you could use it on a regular basis just to buy things daily, not just big purchases. And that's where you had the advent of paper money kind of replacing coins. And now it's actually even culturally, or it's considered culturally backward to use coins to pay for anything. There's articles online right now about waitresses or register clerks or people working at the counters giving hard time to old people who come and actually pay exact change. Oh, well, you're holding the line up, you're taking too long, using coins. So it's considered culturally backwards, which is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, it's cash money. Why is there a challenge? Oh, well, it's not convenient enough. It doesn't happen fast enough. I'm a very busy person. Move it up there. What's taking this line so long? See, it's a whole, that 6 seconds of focus that the world seems to have now, and the instant gratification. They want to flip a switch and then be happy. So I won't go off on another tirade. Let's stay focused on the idea of fiat currency and what that means. So in a gold standard currency, when the gold standard is used by a country for its currency, for money, there's no such thing as inflation. If you take a gold doubloon and go to Greece now, you can buy the same amount of goods with that one solid gold doubloon, right? That one coin, as you could 2,000 years ago. Because a gold system does not experience inflation. Now, hopefully you understand what inflation is. It means that the power of the dollar bill in your hand decreases over time because it's losing value. In fact, that's what I'm trying to get to, is the idea that fiat money experiences a devaluation of its buying power, its purchase power, because of inflation. And the reason inflation exists in a fiat system is simply because it's not backed by anything real. And human beings know that. The market knows that. They know that the money's not real. And so they don't want it. I don't want that. I want gold. Look at it. It's heavy. It's shiny. I like it. I want this. I don't want paper. What am I going to do? Start a fire with this? It's valueless. In fact, you've seen that in recent history where inflation has gone so completely out of control that people were basically taking stacks of money to buy groceries. I think Iraq, and when the Iraqi war was occurring, people were so desperate to just try and buy anything, and inflation was so out of control that they couldn't even, they had to take wheelbarrows of money just to be able to buy their groceries or to buy bread or buy clothing. So this is something that's not old and unheard of. It's already been seen in the world. In fact, we're experiencing here in America. And yet still online there are articles every day about how a fiat currency is really the best and most stable system in the world, which is so completely ridiculous. Nobody can afford to buy a house right now. Nobody can afford their taxes right now. Nobody can afford to pay their basic living. Everybody's broke and everybody's complaining about being broke. There's no middle class anymore. You're either super wealthy or you're broke, right? And there's nothing in between. And people are leaving states because the taxes are going up so high. In fact, I mentioned in one of my other videos, the Office of General Accountability for the U.S. government says that the taxes are going to go up to 50 and 60%. That means half the year or more than half the year you're working for the government just so they can keep spending. So think about this for a second. In a gold standard currency, there is no inflation. With fiat money, there is inflation. Now, what is the definition of money, right? It's a value exchange medium. It's a medium of value exchange. So what is the definition of money? All right, here are the things that make up money by definition. It's a medium of exchange, number one. It's a unit of accounting, number two. Number three, it's a standard of value. Right? Standard of value. So even if it's by government regulation, they're saying it's worth this much. This is $1. This is what you'll get, right? And then the market goes, well, I don't know about that, but we'll get to that in a second. The last one is it's a store of purchasing power. Those are the four things: medium of exchange, unit of accounting, standard of value, and a store of purchasing power. Those first three, the first two, absolutely, fiat currency does very well. The third one, right, the standard of value, is set by law. And when I say when they come down at you at the point of a gun, I mean it. If you don't use the currency, the U.S. currency, and the U.S. government finds out about it, they will come and arrest you and charge you with felony. That's a federal offense to not accept legal tender, the US dollar as legal tender, because they know what will happen if you don't. If you refuse to accept the US dollar as legal tender, as the standard of value, then other people will do it too. And guess what? Their whole scheme of fiat money falls apart. So when I say the point of the gun, I mean it, because it's big business. They will come and they will make sure that they use local police or local militia to make sure that you fall in line, because that's what holds up a fiat currency system, is the federal law and people being intimidated into using it. Not using it because it has intrinsic value. They use it because they're forced to. And that's what you have with the US dollar. If you don't believe me, go look it up. In 1971, President Nixon severed the gold value. It's completely fake money, which is also part of the reason that everything has become so incredibly expensive. Now, see, here's the thing. It's taken 1 or 2 generations for inflation to go so high, as high as it is now. I mean, we're talking about $500,000 for a shack that's falling down in California, houses that are completely so expensive that young people can't afford to ever even think about buying a house. So it has taken that long for it to happen. And so what's occurred is that you have people who've grown up and then had kids and then grown up again and are just used to the idea that, well, everything just gets more expensive every year. Isn't that how it's supposed to work? No, that is not how it's supposed to work. That is just a very small sliver of time in the history of this country, and especially in the history of the world. The gold standard never experiences inflation, period. Go look it up. Anybody that wants to debate that, I've got history behind me. Please feel free to quiz me on it. So, a fiat currency system, though, absolutely every time experiences inflation. In fact, this country, the United States, has experienced it twice before the US dollar that we're using now, which is on its way out. It's almost completely valueless now. Twice before, the United States government tried to issue fake money, and the inflation went so fast and it went up so high so quickly, $1,000, $2,000 for a loaf of bread, like in just a few weeks or a couple months, that they said, never again, we're going to the gold standard. And that's when they wrote that in. And then along comes Nixon and the Federal Reserve, and they say, well, you know, if we control the flow of money, we can just keep that inflation just at a low percent so that people don't freak out, right? And we'll make it seem like the fiat currency system is much more stable. You don't have the challenges that you have with the gold standard where there's deflation or inflation. There's no inflation. It's just that value, supply and demand. Gold stays the same. People want it, period. Which is why whenever you have a fiat system start to fail, like the US dollar, people start hoarding gold, hoarding silver. They all know that that is actually a store of purchasing power. Gold and silver are true stores of purchasing power. You know, another interesting side note, in the US government, in the United States, money, actually tobacco leaves were used as money. Even hemp was used as money to pay taxes. Things that have intrinsic value have been used as money in the past before. This is not new. It just so happens that gold and silver have more intrinsic value because they're heavy and they're shiny. And as human beings, we like things that are heavy and shiny. And so it was easier to carry around gold coins or silver coins than it was to fill your pockets full of tobacco leaves to be able to have enough with you to buy whatever it is that you need. It was just easier to carry. And then, of course, it was easier to carry a piece of paper that said you had gold coins or silver coins in a bank. So back to the idea that fiat currency does not technically fall under the definition of true money. All right, that's the best way to phrase it. Fiat currency cannot actually be called money because it is not a store of purchasing power. It's exactly the opposite. In fact, inflation ensures that fiat money steals away your purchasing power. You must work more hours to acquire more fiat currency to be able to buy the same loaf of bread or the same gallon of milk. You must work longer and harder to be able to buy the same things that you bought a year before with a different standard, with gold. With gold, you still buy the same amount. Now, see, here's the other interesting thing. People say that, well, the value of gold is extremely volatile. It goes up and it goes down and up and down and up and down. It's not the gold value that's going up and down. It's the currency it's being bought with, which is a fake currency, a dollar or a euro or a franc or whatever. They're all fiat currencies. And so when they say, well, what's the value of gold? Well, an ounce of gold is worth $1,300 US. What does that mean? That the value of gold has gone up or down? No, it means that the US dollar is so valueless that to buy 1 ounce, you got to use 1,300 $1 bills. That's what that means. It's like buying a loaf of bread. You're buying a commodity, the same thing. You're buying a gallon of milk. It takes $10 to buy a good gallon of milk anymore, where it used to be 50 cents. That's inflation. It's the dollar losing its purchasing power. That's the true definition of money. Those 4 items must be met, all 4 of them, especially as a store of purchasing power. And that's where fiat money falls short. So technically you can't call fiat money, fiat currency, money. See, even I do it. It's so programmed into me that it's actually supposed to be called money that sometimes I still do it by accident. It's not. Fiat currency is not technically money because of the one simple fact that it does not store your purchasing power. Your labor, your hard work goes into making these dollar bills. And that dollar bill is slowly shrinking all the time, so that you have to work harder and harder and harder and harder every day. Every day you have to work more. Then you have to work overtime and weekends and holidays and miss birthdays and never take a vacation, just so that governments can spend as much as they want, just so that they can run the money system. Now, is it all doom and gloom? No, it's not. The wonderful thing about it is now you're aware and you can learn how to leverage that information to help you make real money and make lots of it, and then get your real money to go out into the world and make more for you while you stay at home and do whatever it is that you love to do. How nice is that? All right, so hopefully you have a little bit more understanding of what fiat currency is and how it's not technically money, because it's not really a store of value, a store of purchasing power. Most important, purchasing power. And hopefully this will inspire you to go and do some homework about fiat currency and the different governments in the world that are using them. In fact, I would encourage you to do that, because it's going to be very important in the coming months when this market correction hits, when indexed funds bubble explodes and the markets crash. You're going to know what to do. You're going to understand what's actually happening because you've been learning as you go. In fact, if you want to learn more, definitely click on the link below down in the description. That's our Mastering Money course. So the Richest You Mastering Money. It's an amazing course. It will absolutely help you to be able to master your finances and understand money like we're talking about, especially the difference between fiat currency and real money. And it isn't just gold and silver. I mean, one of the things we talk about in that course is that you need to be currency neutral. You need to be able to exchange value with others in different ways that maybe you'd never heard of before. Maybe using tax advantage insurance contracts, maybe by bartering, maybe using some other form of currency. So there's a whole bunch of information that's available. Hopefully this video was helpful for you to understand what's going on in the world and why things are happening, especially inflation, especially the US dollar and what's the challenges it's causing. If you like the information, definitely please give a thumbs up to the video and definitely subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you back every time we post another video. All right, everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.